Hi everybody. Today I've been working with my team of junior designers on a couple of different projects, and there's something that I see a lot that I kind of want to go over with you guys, and it's around clipping paths on in Photoshop and collaging different objects together. So stay tuned and check it out. Okay, so here is the original submission for this game show PowerPoint. Essentially, you are able to click any one of these to select the question. It'll jump to the question and answers revealed and so on. Obviously, there are some copyright issues around using Alex Trebek's picture, and the legal team at the client's office suggested also changing the word Jeopardy. So the request from the client was to create a collage cluster of freedom fighters. This cluster has a few problems. Firstly, one of the problems here is this hand extends over the game board. So it's actually not possible at this stage to click any of these game options that would then take you to those questions. So it's really important to think about the end presentation and what purpose the asset is going to serve. And in this case, the purpose is training, and this needs to function as an actual game board. So this does not work. Another observation is, as you can probably see, there is a really loose crop here, and we've got white chunks coming out of it, and it's a bit odd here having this woman's face, first of all, larger than everybody else's head, but second of all, buried behind this guy's fist. And the final observation, which I'm privy to because I have the notes from the client, is that we're actually only supposed to have 4 faces here. So for somehow we got lost in translation, and we have 6 faces when we only needed 4 faces. So I'm going to move into Photoshop and get myself all set up, and then I will show you a better way to do a clipping path here. I think what she had done was use the magic wand tool or a lasso or something, but I'm going to use the Bezier tool, and I will show you how to do that. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do a clipping path that's really nice and smooth using the Bezier tool with this here image of Lucy Parsons. First things first, this contrast is a little bit low, so I'm just going to Command L to pull up my levels, and I'm going to tweak this black over to where this peak in the level appears. That will usually give a nice result. And I don't want to wash out the white too much. As you can see, it starts to look kind of weird there. So I'm going to also bring the grays down to give it a little bit more depth and contrast. That looks pretty good. So from here, what you need to do, zoom in nice and close. And on your, there's layers, channels, and paths here, usually on your essentials setup. You click this little page icon to get yourself a new path, and then hit the P key to bring up the pen tool. The pen tool is also located there if you prefer. So I use a graphic tablet for this simply because it feels more natural, but it can definitely still also be done with a mouse. So just a quick note too, it would be even better if this was higher resolution, but it's not, so we're making do with what we have. So what you want to do is, because you as a human being have a better concept of where edges on black and white images start and finish, so you can make a better decision as to where these Bezier points should go. So what I'm doing here is I'm just clicking and dragging to make a curve, and I click a single click to make a hard angle. So sort of to explain, I wish it was higher res, but to explain that further, let me just get to a corner. So right now I'm just sort of clicking and dragging in the direction that as if I were drawing. And each time I click, it's going to create a node. And each time I drag, it's going to sort of change that curve. See that there? And you want to just match it up with the image. So what I just did here, so I want it to end in a sharp curve on this side, but I want to keep the curve here. So if you hold down the Option key, see you get that little V shape on your Bezier tool. If you Option and then click, and it'll cut off the rightmost arm of your node. I don't know all of the terminology here, but so here's one where it comes into a corner. So what I want to do is I want to actually click and get a hard corner with no curve to it. So clicking and dragging all the way around. I always try to be zoomed in like at least 300%, but the more you zoom in, the better a texture you're gonna get. So right now I'm zoomed in 800% so that I can really see where the edge of this coat is. And you can, if you hold the Command key, it's going to toggle over to your little white selection tool as opposed to the black selection tool, which moves whole paths. The white tool moves just a single node. I think it's called, what is it called? Some sort of selection tool. See, I don't know the names. I just know how to do the stuff. So just continuing on here, I think that's probably the rim of a hat. So I'm gonna give it a bit of a curve, a hat or something. We'll find out when we zoom out. And see, okay, so here, so when you toggle to that little move tool, you can actually grab that node and move it wherever you want. And you can do this while you've got your path still live. So it's super handy if you like place something over here and you're like, oh, darn, that's not what I want. And so you can just move it and change your arm positioning and all of that stuff to make sure you get it right. So continuing on, I could pause this. Why don't I pause this to show you, because this might take a little while. They usually take me about, if I do it really well, it usually takes about 20 minutes to do. So I'll pause this and I'll be right back. Okay, buddies, I'm almost at the end here. And I just wanted to say a couple things as I was finishing. One is that when you're considering where the inside of your shape is, you just want to go a couple of pixels inside of that. Like see right here where on to the left of my blue line, you can see there's like a little bit of the dark from this handle. That's not ideal. What's ideal or more ideal is if you go just inside that, because that's what makes it look cut out, is when you're picking up objects from the background, essentially. So I'm just zooming out to see what this is. This is the arm of the chair. I don't think we're going to use her body all the way down to here, so I'm just going to be loose on that last little bit here and zoom out. So I have this finished clipping path. Now there were a couple of spots in here where there was like some holes in the feathers that I thought if you were to be really, really detail oriented and weren't going to be shrinking this image at all, you would want to cut those out as well. And to make sure that they are actually removed from the shape, you make sure that your exclude overlapping shapes is selected from this drop down menu, and that'll just knock those out automatically. But I'm going to move forward with this. So once you have your path, make sure it's selected. If you've got excluding shapes, you may need to just unselect it and then reselect it again. That'll make sure that all the parts of the path are selected. And from this drop-down menus, you can say make selection, and I'd give it a bit of a feather. You can go as low as 0.5 of a pixel, which is kind of nice and subtle because you can always blur this later with the blur tool. And hit OK. And now copy, Command C for copy. And where's my collage? Here's my collage. And Command V to paste. So now you can see that we have a much crisper line here than on these others. And to sort of verify this with a couple of different things, you can fill your test layer with other colors just to make sure it looks good there as well. Now, some people might argue that that's a little bit of a hard edge, but like I said, you can easily just grab your blur tool. Oops, wrong one. Blur tool here and blur out your edges some. And then if you are going on a white background, which we are not, so far, I'll just put this in the color-ish that we're gonna have. You could burn it out or dodge it out too, which just lightens up your edges. Like here, it's on the wrong layer. See, I didn't take my own advice. I haven't named all my layers. Where is she? Here we go. We could burn those out and like kind of brighten them up a little bit so that they don't look so dark on the edge. All right, so I've got Fannie Lou Hamer here, and I just wanted to demonstrate another trick. So if you've got hair that's particularly hairy, or fuzzy, or otherwise would not benefit from a very hard kind of line, what you can do is so we've got our path turned on. Grab any one of these selection tools and it'll bring up this select and mask option here at the top, and get on over to that, and you'll see here that it sort of dims out the background, and it will give you an opportunity to use some of these cool tools like this hair one here. So what I usually do with this, unfortunately my path is still turned on and I don't want you to waste your time by turning it off here, but you can just draw along that line, and what it'll do, the Photoshop will sort of pick up more natural lines of the hair and some of the fuzz and stuff like that. And so you'll end up with hair that looks a lot more natural. It even puts in some transparency so that when you're going over top of a color, you're going to see some of the color through on the hair. So that's just great. And that is that, and I will be back with the collage. Hi there, so it's a new day and I'm just here to finish this collage. I just want to make the observation here that I've got the 4 correct characters, that I've used high resolution images, and that I've cropped them sort of as much as I can to give myself extra, or like cropped in as much of their body as I can to give myself the flexibility to move these guys around. What I'm trying to do right now is make sure there's no like weird cutoffs, aside from the bottom, which I'll probably crop off anyways. And I also, like, if we remember our layout, they're going to be in the bottom left corner. So if they sort of live in this area, then we're happy. So they could be cropped here and here. Now the other thing is I was thinking is it would make sense if they were looking toward the game board. So I'm going to quickly flip these guys horizontal. There we go. That's a bit better. And maybe like move them. So the next move here I was going to make was adding some shadow in between the characters. And I'm going to do that manually. I like the look of a manual shadow as opposed to a computer generated drop shadow, because the computer generated drop shadows are always the exact shape of your character. So I'm going to do under Walter right now. I'm going to switch to brush. I'm going to reduce the hardness to none. I'm going to reduce my opacity to 8 or somewhere low, like in there or something. And then I'm going to start by making the brush really big and sort of, oops, it's on purple right now. So I'm going to undo that in my history panel, grab black, and I sort of start like actually right behind the guy. So you're just getting like just a touch of shadow there. And this is sort of like, this is where graphic design and illustration, I guess, becomes a little bit like painting, like art. So it helps to practice and develop those skills. So usually where an object is close to the object behind it, you'll notice when you're observing in real life that it's a little bit darker when it's close up, and then it gets less dark further away. There we go. That's kind of looking nice. And you can, the reason I made my own separate layers, because you can turn it off and on and see how you feel about it. And you can also take your move tool and tuck that guy in if you're like thinking it isn't working. So, or like you needs a small tweak, or you can pull it back out. So anyways, that's something to note there. So I'll quickly add one behind Lucy here. And I feel like she looks like she's really close to Fanny behind her, right in there. And maybe I'll make that a little bit lighter and do some broad strokes here. Yeah, and then a little bit on this side too, because she's just, they're supposed to be in like a cluster, plus it'll give a little bit more contrast between the face and the jacket. I'm gonna go even lower. I'm gonna go down to 3 and do some big broad strokes there. Big. Now I can turn that off and on to see how that looks. This one looks a little bit like a drop shadow to me, so I'm gonna add some more fat gradient strokes here. Yeah, okay, that's feeling better. Tuck in that hard line a little bit. And then it looks like I'll probably want to put Stokely Carmichael behind Fannie Lou Hamer. Oh, though her arm cuts off there. So what are our options? We can, we don't have very many. We have to have, I think we have to have Stokely in front here, which feels a little bit awkward. So I might try like resizing him. Her face is the smallest. These 3 faces are about the same size. So I guess what I could do is I could reduce the size of everybody but Lucy. So I'm going to grab everybody but Lucy and Command T to transform. Notice I've left Lucy's shadow out of the free transform. So it's a little tricky with this hat, as you can see. But I think somewhere in here, and then I'm going to move Fanny up. There we go. Give her a little bit more space between the chin and the hat. Okay, so I'm going to play around a little bit with colorizing these guys. I will put that in a separate video in case anyone is interested. Since we're done the video, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to look at the before and after of the collaging context and showing you the color choices that I made there. So that was how to make a nice clipping path, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.